I guess for how humans have come to being is somewhat controversial. For me, when I was taught in school, it was both the scientific part, so let's say like natural selection and all those Darwin theories. But on the other hand, because I also went to like a very religious school, they also taught more of the like how God created the earth and like within like 7 days or 6 days, yeah. In terms of evolution, I would generally say that it's more scientific. There's much more data and sort of they actually publish some of their results on how to prove or disprove some of the concepts they think is relevant to evolution. On the other hand, for creationism, um, it's a little bit tricky to prove some of the concepts because it's based on sort of more biblical artifacts like the Bible, and some people argue whether to take it literally or figuratively. And I guess more recently, people would not really how do I say, they don't really like evolution and creationism don't really have to necessarily disagree with one another. I think some people would find that God was the one who used evolution as a tool to um, to create human beings. So, but for me, I would say, well, because I come from a more scientific background, I would say that um, I tend to believe the more of evolution side as opposed to creationism. But of course, we should be quite respect both sides, because some people would have very strong beliefs that creationism is actually their own um, their own sort of truth, maybe. For me, because I come from a school that taught both sides, so I would generally think this is much better, because in terms of how humans came to being, it's actually a very sort of not just something that people tend to disagree about, but in general people are really curious as to how we really came to this earth. So if we can include that in the syllabus, I think in like schools it would be very beneficial. But most importantly is how it's taught in school. So even if you teach both sides, maybe some people they tend to push more the scientific part as opposed to the creationism part. So of course that's still that would be somewhat biased, and it won't be as beneficial as if you taught it in a more objective way. But I guess it also depends on, like, let's say the context that it's taught. For example, if it's a science course and people are talking about more of the scientific basis of evolution, I don't know how they can incorporate creationism into the whole the big picture. But if it can be taught if both sides can be taught in as objective as possible, then maybe you can get the students to have their own opinion of which one they think is better. Then that would be, I think, the best case. Yes, I think if it's completely ignored in the syllabus, it's a bit unfair. And of course, for me, I do believe sort of more towards the scientific point of view of evolution. But in order to get a very good picture of what the different theories are, and to really appreciate the diversity of how people view evolution and or other theories related to it, it's very important to incorporate creationism as well. But more importantly is if it's ignored, actually the worst case is it is incorporated, but it's sort of shunned upon, like they they're more biased towards the scientific side. Like even if you include creationism, but people, like let's say the teachers or professors, they tend to talk, oh, creationism is nonsense. It's not, it's not very credible. Then if it is incorporated that way, then it's not. It's even worse than being ignored, I would say. But like sort of what I've said before, it's the best case is if they can both be taught. If one is left out, it's kind of like, let's say the opposite end. If you just look at it from the creationism point of view, that it would seem like you're just brainwashing your students into thinking this is the way, this is how it is. But later you can't really truly appreciate evolution or the other sort of concepts of human origin unless you study it from all the angles, like the scientific or the creationism one. I think nowadays they try to reconcile it so it's much more publicly accepted theory, like what I mentioned about how evolution is used by God, or there's even more studies now of trying to make the Bible more scientific, and they're saying it's not to be taken very literally. Maybe some of the ideas are more like allegory, like something that's very deep, not literally interpreted kind of text. And in that sense, you can even try to bring two theories together as opposed to saying, this is different, I'm anti-evolution, I'm